Guru Gaura Gandharva Govindangring Ganai Saha Vande Prasadato Yesham Savaramba Subankara Gauravag Vigraham Vande Gaurangam Gauravaivavam Gaura San Kirtanomatam Gaura Karunya Sundaram Guru Rupa Harim Gauram Radha Ruchi Ruchavritam Nityam Nomi Navadipe Nama Kirtana Nartanai Srimad Prabhupadam Boja Madhupebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
There is a question from Vinod Bandhu Prabhu, Russia, St. Petersburg. What is the nature of despair? In one state, and he explains that, what he means. In one state of despair, the atheist or the one who has lost the faith or whose self-confidence is completely shattered is capable of suicide. But another state of despair is the state of a faithful person who for a long time does not receive help from above and understands that the Lord wants him or her to be more active and involved. Then this person is capable of acting beyond his power and capacity. So, what is the nature of despair?
I'm thinking of the verses written by Srinivasacharya in praise of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, including Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami, from today's, here's Tirubhav. And there's a line there, it says, Dhira, Dhira, Jana Priyo, Priyakaro, Nirmatsaro, Pujito, Sri Chaitanya Kripabharo, Bhuvi Bhuvo, Bharavahantarako. No, but before that. Gopi Bhavara Samritabdya, that may be another line. Anyway, saying the Dhira and the Adhira. So you have these two types of person. Those who are gentle, sober, say in the second category. They were very dear to them. Sri Chaitanya Kripabharo Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavahantarako Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyago Sri Jiva what? Gopal. And the Adhira, those who are disturbed, Prabhupada even put in, the ruffians, or we can think whatever comes under that heading, those who are Adhira, they're upset about their personal situation or the world, whatever. Saying, but what they have to offer is appreciated by both classes of men. Right? So it transcends the desirable, undesirable, the good or bad of this world. We should remember, although we're deeply immersed in this plane, what are we told that by Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami? Dvaita, Bhadra, Gyan Sab Manodharm, A Balo, A Mando, A Sab Brahm. Saying, don't get lost in analyzing or distinguishing within this relative circumstance what is desirable or undesirable, favorable, unfavorable, good or bad. He's saying it's all sub-manudharm, means a product of delusion. It's all a mistake. Right? So we're not trying to find out a way, a method or a strategy to be successful in the world of delusion. Right? To find a nice life within the world of delusion. Right? It's one thing to say it's a dreamlike existence. It's another thing you could describe it as a nightmare, because it's a nightmare for the soul to confront mortality or self-extinction. Right? And the extensions of that, when people think that they're not realizing themselves, their self-potential, right? Self-determination. Right? But if that determination of self is based upon a misconceived notion of identity, then it's of no value. It's not a solution to this problem. So what's important to establish first is actual identity, right? Beyond the plane of mortality. Right? As we were discussing recently, Sanatana Goswami saying, Keami kene amoy jari tapitroy iha nahi jani kamona hitohoy. Who am I? Why am I suffering? Right? And he adds that, if I don't know the answer to this question, then how can I know what's beneficial for me? So first, what has to be established is our identity. Or you could say, another way of expressing that is reality potential. It is a misnomer, in a sense, to think that what we're discussing is religion, or something religious, or something that occupies a particular slot, or hashtag, right, or metadata. Right? Actually, what we're talking about is reality. Right? Once, it reminds me when some devotees, of course, they're always asking Srila Guru Maharaj so many questions. Right? And I suppose it was inevitable, but one day, you might say, assessing the questioning qualification and capacity of those who were before him, Guru Maharaj said, can I ask you a question? And everyone was surprised, like, yes, sure. And Guru Maharaj said, what is Krishna consciousness? That was his question. What is Krishna consciousness? And devotees have been in so many situations, they start offering answers to that. And one, rather than saying, I don't know, he said, cleverly, he said, it's what Prabhupada taught us. He figured that was a safe answer. And someone said, Bhakti, they just started throwing out different, and Guru Maharaj said, Krishna, did he say anything about him? And then before they could continue further, Guru Maharaj said, it is reality. That was his answer. Right? There's so many ways we could think of how to answer that, and they may not be inaccurate. Right? We're having a little fun. There's so many ways to answer that. But this particular time, he chose to say, it is reality. And that we should remember. It's not that you could describe it as esoteric, Eastern religion, Eastern philosophy, Hinduism, Vaishnava, all these names. Vaishnavism wouldn't be incorrect. But Guru Maharaj said, it is reality. That's what Krishna consciousness is. And then he said, and it is in your interest to become acquainted with that reality. Right? At present, in the mortal world, and you're being told, and you have a position in reality, which is the immortal world. The mortal world is not the reality, because it's all that we know at present. We refer to it conveniently or for the sake of navigating it as reality. It's like Bishop Berkeley, and the world is in the mind. And even cognitive science giving some support to this. Right? But it's easily mocked or parodied. Someone say, oh, so this chair doesn't really exist, it's just in my mind. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that the objective world is floating in the mental world, right? Or in Guru Maharaj's language, the whole objective world is like an iceberg floating in an ocean of consciousness. That's what he means to say. And there's an iceberg, but what is it, its support, what is it resting upon? What is it contingent upon? That ocean of consciousness that can conceive of height, length, breadth, dimension, weight, soft, hard, black, white, the color spectrum, all subjective concepts. We see all the time online there's some play with light to show that the colors that you appear to be seeing are not in fact those colors, or many illusions, right? Optical illusions and otherwise, sense perception illusions, to convince you how much of objective experience is dependent on the subjective experiencer, right? So, reality, Srinvantu Vishay Amritasya Putra. Guru Maharaj liked to quote the saying from the Upanishads where it's saying, oh, you children of nectar, that's Amritasya Putra. Remember, Amrita is connected to the word mrityu, which means death, the world of mortality. So this divine sound is entering this plane and saying, oh, you're Amrita Putra. You're a child of the nectar world that's not subjected to birth, death, old age, and disease. Srinvantu Vishay, and through hearing, you can come out of the dreamlike world of mortality and realize your potential and your identity in the immortal nectar world. Right? So we could say two types of despair. One is realizing the futility of trying to find happiness in a world that's been described in the Gita as dukkhalayam ashashvatam, not only an unhappy place, a place subjected to varieties of material miseries, because then you think, well, we're working on it. Right? We have a program, we have an app for that. Right? But it says dukkhalayam ashashvatam means the temporary miserable place. If it was permanent, that would be another subject. But it's saying not only is it miserable, but it's temporary. Like the old joke that says, the world is full of suffering. Life is full of suffering. And it's so short. So that's the predicament we're in. So people, and Prabhupada's words, he says in one of his purports in Bhagavad Gita, when one realizes that material existence is a constant source of perplexity at every step, at every moment, and I add that to that, a never-ending series of humiliations. What did Shakespeare say? The 1,000 natural shocks the flesh is heir to, and Hamlet's soliloquy, to be or I believe that's it. The 1,000 natural shocks the flesh is heir to. So whether it's from Shakespeare, from Prabhupada in the Gita, or your own personal experience, Prabhupada's advice, when you realize that, he said, it behooves such a person to approach a spiritual master. And what does the Bhagavatam say? Tasmad gurum prapadyeta. Guru means get a guru, right? Qualified, not just anyone and everyone or the loudest voice in the room. No, vidya bi sevita shadbi nityam advesha ragi bi. Some qualifications. Gyaninas tattvadarshina. What does it mean? Seen the truth. Seen what? Reality. Who's a seer of reality, a transmitter of reality. Again, Prabhupada's favorite expression was transparent via medium. No opacity, no egoistic opacity. Right? Transparent via medium. For what? The truth. And what is truth? Reality. And what is reality? The good news about reality that we hear from Guru Maharaj, reality is beautiful. Satyam Shivam Sundaram, Satchidananda, and full of love, happiness, heart, not heartless, not impersonal, not abstract, but the ultimate loving, affectionate person who's inconceivably beautiful and the full spectral range of sensuous possibility, as we've mentioned. Aesthetic is now synonymous with the culture of beauty, but the original meaning, aestheticos, means that which is perceived by the senses. Right? So think, these names of Krishna, you might think, like, Krishna has a lot of names. So some we see associated with his devotees, Yashodanandan, Nandanandan, but every name reveals some aspect of the infinite. And as Guru Maharaj like to say, all the phases of the infinite are infinite. So, and Blake, if the doors of perception were cleansed, we would see everything as it is, infinite. On its own, that sounds good, but it's not very specific. It's abstract. If the doors of perception were cleansed, we would see everything as it is, infinite. So first of all, let's explain. The doors of perception are the senses. Right? Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling, smelling. And the infinite means an infinite that can be seen, the seen infinite, the heard infinite, the touched. Can there be a touch infinite? Can we even conceive of that? We hear in the Bhagavatam, the gopis describe the softness of the lotus feet of Krishna. Right? The soft infinite. Right? The aromatic infinite. Krishna says the whole creation is mad for my aroma. Right? And what does he, the Yang Shama Sundaram, Achintya Guna Swarup. The word achintya is very important. It's saying he has a divine form and with particular qualities and characteristics. But what is it? Achintya, inconceivable beauty. Kandarpakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham. As if 10 million cupids were condensed, concentrated as one. That sort of seductive power and level of enchantment. So that culture of aesthetic beauty, then what is Krishna's name? Govinda. Right? Govinda. Go, once Prabhupada was explaining, and he said, go means Indriyas. He's explaining it. I thought maybe someone should say that Indriyas means senses. But he's saying, like everyone knows, go means Indriyas. And Guru Maharaj said it as well. The senses. And how wonderful this is for us. The supreme absolute truth, the supreme reality is, Anangotsavam, a festival for the senses of infinite beauty to be seen, the sweetest sound, the most wonderful taste, softest touch, every aspect. Right? And so when you say Krishna consciousness, being conscious about reality, reality of the beautiful, he is beautiful. The central conception of the infinite is beauty, charm, and sweetness. It's the extremes described in the Upanishad, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan, greater than the greatest, all-accommodating Brahma, smaller than the smallest, all-permeating Paramatma. But then Guru Maharaj poses the question, what will be the central conception of the infinite? Right? All attractive. That's quite a leap from all accommodating to all permeating to all attractive, everything being drawn towards the center, irresistibly. Krishna. Krish means this type of gravitational pull, inconceivable magnitude of gravitational pull of beauty. Right? We could say, we've seen beautiful people in this world. Right? Remember, Mahaprabhu says, Jive Swarupai Krishna, that you are the eternal servant of Krishna, and that's the good news. Right? Then he goes on to say, give an example of like the sun and sun ray. So just one aspect to understand. We say, think of the most beautiful person we've seen in this world, right? Objectively speaking, right? It may be a personal thing for them. Oh, the most beautiful person I ever saw, right? Sun ray, a sun ray of beauty. What would be the beauty on a comparative level between the ray and the sun? Instead of we did light or heat, we do beauty. Sun-like magnitude of beauty, and the ray, and we thought the ray was painfully beautiful, and we forgot ourselves. We became oblivious, self-forgetful in the presence of the ray-like beauty, or the beauty of the ray. Right? But think of that, that's the ray. Then the magnitude of beauty of the sun would be, my heart is palpitating, I would faint. Koti kami murchitangri rupa rasa rangaram. Too much, we can't, achintya guna swarupam. Yes, inconceivable level of beauty. Sometimes in the aspiring devotee section, we think we know something about Krishna, or what Krishna looks like, or and you could say on a certain level, we do, right? So whatever we've heard that's real and true from Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, and Vaishnava resonated in the heart. Hridayena binu gato yodharmastane bodhata. So you could say on a certain level, there's the beginning of seeing Krishna. Right? That even, and in this case we'll say, so even a remote glimpse of that sun-like magnitude of beauty that's possessed by Krishna is enough to capture the heart. But Guru Maharaj told the story of one man. He said 2 chairs were drawn, and from everyone. But Guru Maharaj, like Jaimini Rishi and Brihad Bhagavatamritam, was like hiding in the bushes. And this man wanted to ask Saraswati Thakur some question, and he said, "Have you seen God?" And Guru Maharaj said, Saraswati Thakur said, if I told you that I have and I hadn't, I would be cheating you. And the inverse would also be true. But it's not relevant to your situation. And to quote Prabhupada's introduction in the Upanishad, he said, do you have the eyes to see God? That you have to learn. Right? But another devotee, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, whose faith was wavering, and you could say was damaged to a certain degree, he wanted to ask Guru Maharaj some similar question to rebuild himself. And he said, I know we say, people who say they've seen Krishna, they're bogus. We dismiss them out of hand as being posers, imitationists, delusional. He said, and it was smart what he said. He said, but I know that you're not one of those people. So I'm asking you, who are not in that category, aforementioned category, have you seen Krishna? And Guru Maharaj said, I do not have the audacity to say that I have seen Krishna. He said, but I will say that according to Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, and Vaishnav, that on the way to Krishna, there are certain signs that you should see, and I'm seeing those signs. Right? So, still, so you could say the beginning of seeing Krishna through hearing, Srutva Gunan Bhuvana Sundara Shanvatam Te, and realize the function of hearing is to enable. You could say the function in hearing is to enable one to have Krishna darshan, actually. Right? Same with the eyes. Remember, in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Sukadev tells Parikshit Maharaj, early on in the beginning of the second canto is where Sukadev starts speaking. So it's in the first chapter, second, and that section. And he's saying, those eyes do not behold the inconceivably beautiful form of the Lord, or like the eyes on a peacock plume, the tongue that doesn't vibrate. He goes through each one of the senses and gives a really harsh, however factual, critique on if it's not used for this function. Summarily, you could say it's useless. But he gives an example of each one in a poetic way, to describe the uselessness of senses that are not engaged in Krishna culture. And I thought, well, that's Sukadeva Goswami, the ostensibly former Brahmavadi, in the womb of his mother up to the age of 16. We'd say that's his level, his criterion. To paraphrase the Grand Inquisitor and the brothers Karamazov, when he tells Jesus, he said, who but you and your saint friends can follow this stuff? You and some of your saint friends, but the rest of the people, can't live up to this standard. But then I found, reading again, it resurfaces in a purport by Saraswati Thakur in the section of the Madhya Lila, where it's Srimati Radha-Rani, the leader of the Braja Gopis. And she's saying, in a similarly devastating, dismissive way, about what is the useless or the burden of senses that do not behold the divine form of Krishna, or hear the sound of his flute, or his holy name, smell his divine aroma. She goes through each one of the sense functions. So really, aesthetic culture is synonymous with Krishna culture, which is synonymous with reality, reality the beautiful. So the only true despair should be for our, Prabhupada's words, causeless unwillingness to cultivate Krishna consciousness. Right? That all the great devotees, though, they express this position. So there's hope. Guru Maharaj said Bhaktivinoda Thakur, at the end of his life, after giving, revealing Mahaprabhu's birthplace, giving us all of our scriptures, our song, and even Guru, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he was saying, I could not serve you, my Lord. What I did was insufficient. How can he say that in a meaningful, heartfelt way? Because his estimation of Krishna is so great, so high, so deep, that he considers reviving the modern day Krishna consciousness movement. In other words, the modern day representation of reality, the supreme reality, was insufficient offering in terms of how wonderful is Krishna. So Radha-Rani herself, Guru Maharaj says, I have this reputation for being the greatest devotee of, not just a devotee of Krishna, but the greatest devotee of Krishna. As Ramananda tells Mahaprabhu, there's no greater fame than that. Remember, the fame of this world, Saraswati Thakur, what did he say? Sukarabhishta, it's the dung of a boar, to be polite. Right? That's how he described the so-called name and fame in this world. But Ramananda is saying, real name and fame is the reputation of being a devotee. He said, not only do I have the reputation of being a devotee of Krishna, but the supreme devotee of Krishna. But I'm so ashamed that I couldn't fully give myself to Krishna. I couldn't offer myself to him in a way that was commensurate to who he is and what he represents. We know that that's not true, but yet thematically this sort of feeling comes in the heart of the pure devotees. Srila Guru Maharaj said, they will never think that they have achieved anartha nivritti, that they're free from impurities or unwanted qualities or misconception. Right? They always see room for improvement. So, and really the way is by taking shelter of Krishna's devotees. If someone truly feels despair in this world, that means sometimes in the Sharanagati expression, the positions are slightly altered. Bhaktivinoda Thakur begins with Doinya, Atmani Vedan, Gopritve Baran, and his Sharanagati. So you could say here, Doinya means this realization of the desperate situation that one is in, right? Despair, desperation. That, and what should be the consequence if that realization is substantial? Doinya Atmani Vedan, then to offer oneself, in a sense, for recreation. We sing the song, Yogyata vichare kichu nahi pai, tomara korunasar. If you examine me, you analyze me, you won't find anything of value. But I believe in your mercy. By your mercy, all these things are possible. That is not only the position of the newcomer, it's the position of a devotee throughout Right? And we want to speak something in glorification of Gopal Bhatta Goswami Prabhu today. And that's in his prayers, Radhe Vrindavanadise Karunamrita Vahini. He's not only saying you are an inconceivable river or stream of the ultimate nectarine substance, but he says, Karuna Amrita. You're mercifully distributing that or bringing others in connection with that. So it's significant that he included the word Karuna, Karun, and, sometimes rendered as compassion. So, but Guru Maharaj added to that magnanimity, magnanimous distribution, which is at the heart of Mahaprabhu's pastimes. So we could say, as we often do, about the position of Shastra or the revealed truth, descending into this plane through the medium of divine sound and through the rishis as proper receptacles for that. They're sharing their realizations in the form of scriptures, revealed truth. But we're dealing with the infinite. Right? All the phases of the infinite are infinite. All aspects of the infinite are infinite. So there's this ocean of divine revelation in the form of the revealed truths, the scriptures, Shastra. Right? Who can extract from there the essence? Right? So Srinivasacharya, who was initiated by Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he says, Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kunipano Saddharma Sangstapako Lokanam Hitakarano Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo. Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyago Srijiva Gopalago. Saying all these different scriptures, they're Shastra Nipun, they're expert at extracting the essence. Right? So we're told that Sanatana Goswami Prabhu and Jiva Goswami Prabhu, they found all these notes of Gopal Bhatta Goswami that they're so extensive that we're left with the impression of someone who's like madly extracting. Who doesn't have time to organize or structure because he is so busy extracting. If someone's descended from that plane, right, what is their view of the whole and of the particular parts of the scripture that make up the whole? Right? So this is not someone who's studying the scriptures trying to gradually elevate themselves towards that plane, but rather someone who's descended from that world and extracting what is essential. It has to be thought of in that way. So extensive that I only take it that he doesn't have time to structure it all. He's too busy milking, extracting that nectarine substance. And then Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, all right, these will go here, and this goes in this section, and they make the Hari Bhakti Vilas. But they put in the name of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, because really it's his research. And there's another reason that we hear when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on his South Indian tour. And we should preface this by saying, in the Bhagavatam, it says, Dakina Desh, that means South India, right, the southern land. It said, even in Kali Yuga, the religion will be very strong there, right? And Madhusudan Maharaj has toured there several times and can speak more to that but he's had first-hand experience. But so, and as Mahaprabhu is traveling, he meets with the Tattvavadis. We know he met with some Buddhists, and he's always demonstrating the superiority of Krishna conception and upgrading everybody along the way. But most near to our line, really, are the Sri Vaishnavas on the Ramanuja line here, in terms of being intact and for other considerations. So, but they're worshiping Lakshmi and Narayan. So he's staying at the house of Venkatabhatta for 4 months. Like we said the other day, the Chaturmasya began, that 4-month period. The sannyasis would stay in one place because it's raining, you can't really travel at that time. Stay in a holy place, and he stayed in, I believe, like Sri Rangam. So he's with Venkatabhatta, who's a Sri Vaishnava. That's the Lakshmi Sampradaya. And Ramanuj is the main acharya in the modern age. And they're having wonderful Harikatha, and we're told it's sometime in that Mahaprabhu says to him, why does your Lakshmi want to have rasa with my Krishna? And according to his Sri Vaishnava qualifications, he's offering some Siddhantic explanation that Narayan and Krishna are one, but keeping Narayan in the superior position and saying, but Krishna's for that playful, lilic, vilas aspect. So rasa vilas, that's in Krishna. So if Lakshmi Devi, should that sort of desire arise within her, then the appropriate expansion of the Lord would be Krishna. Right? So you see, they're keeping Narayan in this primary position, and Krishna is relegated to a secondary position. But Mahaprabhu says, well, it's tenable to say that they're one, but following what you said, but she's not allowed to enter into the rasa-lila. Kasyanu bhavosya jadeva vidmahe tavangri renu sparashadikara yadvanchana sri, that means God is like, yadvanchana sri lalana charatapo vihaya kaman suchiram dridadbrata. For lifetimes, she did austerities in the Tapovan to enter, but could not enter. So, and the Brajagopis, we find coming in connection with Narayan, they'd have no similar aspiration. And in fact, coming in connection with Narayan, rago daya kunchati, their natural flow of the love in their pure hearts, their gopi bhav, crushed, disappointing, crushing disappointment in the presence of Narayan. So he can't address their heart's inner aspiration, and Lakshmi Devi can't enter the rasa-lila. Whereas the Dandakaranya Rishis, Veda Stutis, Yagyasitas can. And then Venkatabhatta, he's having a sweet meltdown and realizes this has left the realm of human comprehension, and Mahaprabhu is upgrading him beautifully and sweetly to the superiority of Krishna conception and Madhura Rasa. Right? And incidentally says, but don't think offensively of Lakshmi Devi as gopis, Lakshmi Sahasra Satrasam Brahma Sevimanam, Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kopataravo, Druma Bhumis Chintamani Toyam Gonamoyi Toyam Amritam. So, why do I say this? Because in the house of Venkatabhatta is a young boy named Gopal. He was there for all of this, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, as a child, and serving Mahaprabhu in so many different ways. So and because their family, and his uncle is Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur. So, Gopal Bhatta, because they are Sri Vaishnavas and they're like the highest level of respectable, venerable Brahmins, due to social customs of the day, Sanatan and Jiva will not publish that book in their name because the Brahmins might find some fault in their lineage. It's put in the name of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. That means it's stamped, certified. No one can assail its conclusions. And very beautifully, they're like in the line of Rupa Goswami, Das Goswami. He's saying, Govinda Balabhe Radhe Twartaye Tamahang Sada. Back to Govinda, who fulfills all the senses. Right? He's saying, you want connection with me? That's not my department. He's saying, but he says, but Govinda Ballabha, the lover of Govinda, Srimati Radha-Rani, Guru Maharaj says very beautifully, she is queen of the heart of Govinda. So you think, so unpredictable Krishna, approaching Krishna, and what is our capacity for exchange or extraction? The sun-like magnitude, how much can the ray handle? What quality and what quantity? Excuse me, more specifically, rasa. So the strategy of the devotees, and as certified, endorsed by Krishna, is saying, if you want to have a substantial connection with me, and I want to have a substantial connection with you, that's not my department. It's the department of the queen of the heart of Govinda, Sri Radhika. So, and Charitamritam says, because she, the head of Hladini Shakti, Hladini Sar Prem, the essence of Hladini Shakta, the cream is Prem. Prem Sar Bhav, the essence of Prem, Bhav, and that means, a higher level of Krishna Prem, when even Prem is being stratified. But then it says, Bhavera, Paramakastanam, but as we go, the essence of Hladini is Prem, the essence of Prem, Bhav. It's saying the highest type of Bhav goes by the name of Mahabhav. And Mahabhav Swarupini is Radha Thakurani, the better half of the sweet absolute, who is Krishna's equal partner, and that she can extract the highest quantity and the highest quality of rasa from Krishna. Okay. And then Radhe Vrindavanadishe Korunamrita Bahini Kripaya Nijapadabja Dasyam Mahyam Pradiyatam. And so Gopal Bhatta is saying, and you are mercifully distributing that divine substance. Kripaya Nijapadabja. How merciful you are. So my aspiration, Dasyam Mahyam Pradiya, is to get connection with your holy lotus feet. That's consistent with the sayings of Raghunath Das Goswami, Asha Vare Amrita Sindhu Mayi Katanchit, his aspiration for Radha Dasyam. So why Guru Maharaj likes this so much, his theme, Radha Dasyam, Das Goswami, Radha Dasyam, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, same thing being expressed again. And so, as if to prove that if someone tried to make a case of Gopal Bhatta Goswami being the, with, let's say, a Brahmanic slant to it, that wouldn't be inaccurate. But if they thought that meant some emphasis on ritual or vidhi or things to that extent, that wouldn't reveal the true heart, the gopi bhav in the heart of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So we hear that after visiting, and again, Madhusudan Maharaj may have been there, the Gandaki River where he got the 12 shalagrams. He returns to Vrindavan, and that on Nrsimha Chaturdashi comes, the appearance of Nrsimhadev, and he's deeply penetrating on that section of the Bhagavatam, lost in appreciation and wonderment at the devotion of Prahlad, thinking, what type of devotee is he? Right? That the Lord comes out of stone. Right? We hear in the Bhagavatam, Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Ritsaroja Ase Shutekshita Pato Nanunata Pungsang. That the Lord's reciprocating the type of love that's in the heart of his devotee. Sometimes we may think of it like there's the Lord's a particular way, and then hearing about that awakens a particular, in the heart of a devotee, appreciation for that form of the Lord. That's also not incorrect, but what's said here is even, I think, more beautiful and sweet and full of heart. It's saying the Lord reciprocates what's in the heart of the devotee. And that's why he, in a sense, assumes all these different forms. It's to accommodate their love and affection. Akila Rasamrita Murti. We should not think, because of what is clear in our line, the line of Sri Rupa that we aspire to serve, Madhura Rasa, that the others are not necessary, or why would anyone worship anyone else, or anything like that. We know when Mahaprabhu himself tried to upgrade, in a sense, Murari Gupta to Krishna conception, and Murari Gupta saying like, I can't argue with what you're saying, that he went to sleep and he thought, I can't withdraw the lotus feet of Ramachandra from my heart. And then he thought, I have to face Mahaprabhu tomorrow. It will be better before the sun rises if I give up my life. But then he comes before Mahaprabhu and he said, I cannot withdraw the lotus feet of Ramachandra from my heart. And Mahaprabhu was like, and he writes Ram Das on his forehead. But he wanted that. He wanted to show that type of fidelity, right? Unbreakable fidelity of the servitor. So even the Braja Gopis, they're worshiping the Hanuman for that type of, what is the word? Unbreakable, indelible, and all other such words. Inseparable. Right. So, Gopal Bhatta's, as we should do, we're in a sense, what we shall think about and conceive and read, praise, is to a certain degree dictated by our calendar. and very mercifully. We have a merciful calendar. If there is the date comes in, oh, we should be reading about this, or we should read about the glories of this divine personality, or this avatar incarnation of the Lord. So he's also doing that. That it's Nrsimha Chaturdasi, he's reading the Bhagavatam and just lost in admiration, love and affection for Prahlad Maharaj, and how the Lord, he's so merciful, he comes out of a stone pillar. Right? But the word stone, and in Sanskrit, Shila, and we say Shila Tanka Nakalaye. So he has 12 Shalagram Shilas, but we're told meditating on Prahlad and the Nrsimhadev, he faints in ecstasy, and when he awakens, he's got this inspiration that he should check his 12 Shalagrams. And then one of them, I believe the one which was a Damodar Shila, he finds the beautiful, inconceivably beautiful deity of Radha-Raman. And those who've had the good fortune to go there, Radha-Raman appears to be around like this. But you're overwhelmed by the sense that you're within the relativity, so to speak, of one of the most powerful deities ever. He's just like this, and this charming, beautiful form, like Tribanga Lalitam to the extreme. His broad shoulders, thin waist, then the hips moving out. He's so beautiful, Radha-Raman. And why that name? When Srila Guru Maharaj was born, he was given the name Ramendra Chandra Bhattacharya, because there were some complications in the pregnancy for his mother, and she prayed to Ramachandra for some protection. We're told to take Rama Nam for. So when he was born, Ramendra Chandra. Then when he came to Sri Gaudiya Math, and he was receiving Harinam initiation from Srila Saraswati Thakur, he gave him the name Ramendra Sundar. So Guru Maharaj at that time saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. He said, this Rama, how shall we conceive? And he said his god brothers, Ananta Vasudeva Prabhu, and they said, what sort of Harikatha did Prabhupada give at the time of your initiation? And Guru Maharaj said, he told about Madhura Rasa and all these things. And they said, oh, you are very fortunate. So he said, how shall we conceive this Rama, Hare Rama? And he said, Saraswati Thakur said, Radha-Raman, Raman Radha, Radha-Raman. Right? The beloved, the lover of Srimati Radharani. And when Guru Maharaj told this, he said, those words are still ringing in my ears. Right? Hearing Saraswati say, Radha-Raman. So, such a beautiful deity, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami Prabhu had many followers there, and among some, they took over the Seva Puja afterwards. But really, we see in Srinivasacharya that he is describing perfectly the glories of all the Goswamis of Vrindavan, but including Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Krishnot Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro Premamritam Bonidhi Dira Dira Janapriyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito Sri Chaitanya Kripavaro Bhubi Bhuvo Bharavahantarako Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyago Sri Jiva Gopalako. Always engaged in glorifying Krishna, either personally or writing divine literature, and extending his Krishna conception to others. And what Gopi Bhava Rasamrita Dila Hari Kalola Magnu Muhur. And as Prabhupada would say, and while they're doing all of this, drowning in an ocean of Gopi Bhav. Why couldn't Lakshmi enter? Two things required: Gopi Bhav and Gopi Deho. The form of a gopi, the heart of a gopi, and the form of a gopi. And we see they have, as described by Srinivasacharya, they have no worldly possessions. Right? And they're not charging anyone for spiritual instruction. Right? And what are we told? They're living under a tree for a few days, then moving on to another one. Somehow, they're so, when it says Gopi Bhava Rasamrita, it means drowning in an ocean and waves of the divine loving mood of the Braja Gopis, to such an extent that they need very little sustenance from this world. They're living on internal sustenance. Right? And as we sing in the song, Eshai Goshai Jabe, Jar Mui Taradas Tansabara Padarenu Mora Panchagras. We're still living upon their remnants, the prasadam of what they have given to us. Right. That's the substance that's nurturing the modern day Krishna consciousness movement, because what they're broadcasting is reality. What is the other one I'm going to say? Where it says, Sri Chaitanya Kripavaro Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavahantarako. Just as in the Burida Jana, Tavakatamritam Taptajivinam Kavibiridisham Kalmasha Abham. Sravanamangalam Srimad-Atatam Bhuvi Grananti Te Buridadana is the same thing. He's saying, this is the most valuable substance for, and the ultimate humanitarian or altruistic works, the best thing you can do for anyone. Why? Because within these descriptions, within this divine substance, is reality, the beautiful. So to be the giver of that, the distributor of that, they're the real humanitarians, altruists, the truly magnanimous. So it's really Gopal Bhatta Goswami Prabhu Tiro Bhav Mahamahotsav Titi Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.